Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast, and you might be hearing a very unfamiliar voice, which is mine. I'm Thala. I'm back on the hosting chair for another awesome weekend of rugby, and it's good to come back to some epic European finals. The first South African winner of the EPCR competitions, and Sean, congratulations to you and other Sharks fans and the Sharks team for winning the European Challenge Cup. How have you been celebrating it? How have you been commemorating this win? That's probably about 17 years too late.
Yeah, maybe. Thala, welcome back, my man. You and Cooks have a hard job taking anchor because I've tried it a couple times and I'm definitely shit. But yeah,
No,
on
never.
this on the celebrations, like no, I didn't really. I was super happy and enjoyed the game and everything, but I don't know, did it sneak up on me? Possibly. Like maybe the whole way through the game I had the feeling that the Sharks were like it might be taken away. It was quite an odd feeling, but amazing result. I think we were chatting about how the Sharks had one chance to make the Champions Cup, which a lot of people feel that they're where they belong. I mean, their squad alone kind of says they belong there. And the only way to do it was to win the Challenge Cup, which, interestingly enough, is not as easy. It's not as easy to do. Like when teams play in the semi-finals, like quarters and semis, they start taking it a little bit more seriously, and then it becomes like for real, you know. So a good win for the Sharks, and what an what a crazy season! Not even season, what a crazy couple of seasons for them. They've ridden all the roller coasters. They've taken some deserved heat, but they caught a whole bunch of strays on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from a couple of from an ex Springbok and a pundit.
I think we'll get into that in a little bit. But I mean, I think just to pick up on that point of a crazy season, I mean, the Sharks are still 12th in the URC. They were bottom for at least half of it. And they've managed to win, obviously, the second, like level European competition. So it's a whirlwind of emotions, I think, for Sharks fans. But I think it just shows the main thing is that once, especially with those Springboks who obviously have a lot of experience now with winning do or die matches, once those guys and a team starts focusing on those games, like, yeah, anything is possible.
Absolutely. So here's my thing. Um, what would the Sharks have done if there was relegation in the URC?
Mm.
Like we've seen it in the past with the Premiership, and we've seen it in the past in the top 14, where they get to a stage and the clubs decide, like, if we win the Challenge Cup, we win the Challenge Cup and can play the Champions Cup next year, but we could be doing it from the Pro D2 or from the Championship. It's quite interesting. So, fortunately for the Sharks and the URC, there is no relegation, but that would have been a very, very interesting little conundrum.
Yeah, it reminds me, Sean, of. I mean, yeah, I know you're not a big football fan, but this is how Chelsea has usually won the Champions League. Like they would have a horrible season domestically and be mid-table for them, and then they just would pull off like win after win in the Champions League and they'd win it. So it's that sort of season where at some point you realize that the league's gone. You aren't really under threat of Chelsea wasn't going to get relegated at any stage, so you can focus everything on this. And it's, yeah, like you said, Sean, it's a difficult competition because some teams are fully in it, and then you might be lucky that some teams are like, it doesn't matter to them. I mean, we saw Clermont, they've pretty much safe in the top 14. They're not really going to get to the top six, so they put all their chips in the middle of the table in the semi-final. We saw Gloucester, they played, I don't know, like a high school team and got beaten 19-0 by Northampton, and they put all their chips in the middle of the table for this game, and obviously it didn't really work out for them.
Yeah. I was obviously that 90-0, like it's a kind of thing, it's a kind of score that gets noticed, whether you follow the Premiership or not, just because you don't often see that in the pro game, especially with a side that's sort of hunting silverware. You see that, and then they got taken apart by the Sharks. So it's like the pressure of all of that. They're really having a poor Premiership season. I think probably one of their worst they've had in quite some
Yeah,
time.
I think they're
Um,
ninth, right?
yeah, yeah.
So last, second last.
Relegation would have been a reality for them too in another world. But yeah, they got taken apart. The thing is they must be kicking themselves. Both the losing sides this weekend will be kicking themselves for how they either A should have pitched up or B should have handled the situation. I think Gloucester are probably going to feel like they didn't fire enough shots. They really, the big thing was the Sharks' defense. Just basically, that's the thing. Like when you're trying to explain to people how important defense is, you look at what that Sharks defense did to Gloucester. Like you could see the lights dimming as each tackle came in, the light started dimming more and more and more, and then they took it away.
Yeah, sure. Let's start with that first 10 minutes because Gloucester was basically camped in the Sharks 22, and it looked like, they were going to, get the sort of the breakthrough score and start, on their road to try and win this final. So they were just attacking, constantly in the 22. They had a few chances, and the Sharks were really good at defensively. And we can obviously expand on, how they stopped the likes of Zach Mercer and Rowan Ackerman from, getting big carries. But obviously, probably the moment this match turned and probably was won was that Eben Etzebeth try stop, which was absolutely ridiculous. With I think it was Chris Harris trying to reach for the line, and Itzebeth just has the wherewithal to slide and to use his thigh to dislodge the ball from Harris trying to ground it.
Yeah, wow. The one thing Ibn Etzebeth has shown this season for the Sharks is he's performing more often than not. But when a top player performs in a poor side, he's seen. When Ibn Etzebeth does it, he's seen even more because he's a world class player, not just club but test. Ugo Monye, I see he got a little bit of heat because he thought it should be a penalty try because Etzebeth was off his feet. But the laws, and technically Etzebeth was in goal because he had a foot in goal, even though all that everything happened outside in the field of play. So technically Eben Etzebeth was fine and the ref made the right call. But it just shows him what he wants and what he needs and what he's capable of. Like we've seen in sides like that performed domestically like the Sharks have, we've seen big name players just disappear. They either roll over or they just kind of fit back in that groove. I think we saw that with the Sharks a couple of seasons ago. And like he hasn't. And that moment there, that was so, if I'm not mistaken, that was on the end of a lot. That was plenty Gloucester attack. It was probably closer to that 10 minutes. It was almost the bit that kind of that ended that massive defensive push by Gloucester. But incredible piece of individual brilliance, and there's so little in Test rugby, like a centimeter here, a centimeter there. That's almost what it was like. But for a big man like that to eke out a centimeter and make it in his favor was so good for the Sharks. And that was, I mean, having that talk with the Sharks afterwards and saying, listen, we can do this. Look at what we've done. That changes things massively.
Yeah, so Sharks completed 95 out of the 110 tackles and had an 86% tackle success rate compared to 83% for Gloucester. So you can see the basis of, their defensive performance. And once they got their chances, having a very successful scrum that, Gloucester didn't even get half of the scrum ball that they put in on their own feed. They had 5 out of 11 successful scrums, which obviously shows the dominance of the Sharks pack, and obviously they have a Springbok front row. And then when the Sharks had their chances, they took them. I mean, Sia Masuku, I can't remember the last time he missed a kick, to be honest. I don't
Didn't he
know.
miss one in the game?
Did he miss one in this game?
No, I really thought
he
he missed
did
one in this
actually. Yeah.
game.
Maybe he did. So he was 89%. So 8 out of 9, which is still ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not a dig at him. I was like, I'm sure I saw him miss recently. I love watching him play. He's still, to me, he's like a player. He's playing and he's doing his stuff, but he just really looks like he's like, oh, I'm here. This is happening. I'm working. Like everything's like, oh, you can almost see him like look around, go, shit, this is nice. But yeah, you're right. The Sharks took their chances. I'm going to say something controversial, but I still don't think Pepsi Buthelezi should be at 8. I know he had a good game and he scored, but I really think I think they'd do really well with having him on the side of the scrum. It's hard to argue when they win, but just thought I'd throw that
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Look, Buthelezzi's try was fantastic.
Sure.
You know, the pickup from the offload, I think, is the underrated part of that try because it
No, the
wasn't a
offload. Let's start at the offload. Like
yeah,
Koch's gone down, he's dummied one man and then offloaded and then the pickup. It was glorious from start
yeah.
to finish.
No, absolute fantastic. I mean, we can talk in a bit about the man of the match there, Vincent Koch, but he picks the ball up, or he receives the offload, and then you know a handoff that Corey Jane would be proud of, a dummy that RD Severe would be proud of, and he breaks the game open for the Sharks. And look, it's a great performance by that Sharks loose trio. I see what you're saying, Sean, and I think Buthelezzi's future is probably going to be more 6 than 8 like his former teammate Sia Kolisi. But there was something very dynamic with that loose
Yes.
trio that they selected on Saturday. I mean, James Fenter was tackling like crazy. I think he had the most tackles for the Sharks. Vincent Chituka has played really well the last few months and has really imposed himself around the field. And he's come up with like big turnovers or big runs that are needed to win games. And Buthelezi has just really found his groove. And, he gets his fair share of stick. I think people think he
Yes.
should be a bit ahead of where he is right now, but he's really been consistent in a team that's not been consistent. So it's
The balance is
it's a
there. The
yeah.
balance is there in that loose trio. It looked unbalanced, and the same loose trio looked unbalanced previously. I think it's more about the confidence. The balance
Mm,
is there now for what they need. But I mean, if you look at like Fenter's tackling everybody. That's not necessarily what you expect from a six. Like you expect the six to
mm,
play like Buthelezi, like tackle and then run. So very interesting. Having said what you said about him, like where he should be in his career, that run, that try on that stage with that handoff, that's the kind of thing. It's almost the Sharks were lacking belief in themselves, and it's come slowly. It wasn't one game, one day. It's come for the team and for individuals. And Buthelezi, it just sucks that it's the second last game of the year. Sorry, for the Sharks. Maybe it's not the second last game for the year. For the season with the Springboks, I mean, he might get a look in. But yeah, he took that so well. That's the one thing about him, though. He does tend to take those moments quite well. If I had to think about it, like when the opportunity's there, like he kicks up like 2-3 gears because he's just like, cool, I've got this. So yeah, quite impressed. I think I popped it on the group. That pass, he should have passed that. That there was a man in the wide open, and he was like, "Nope, I'm going on my own." But he scored. I mean, you can't really argue when a guy does it. So he obviously saw things I didn't. But sheesh,
yeah.
I was like, "You got to offload here."
If you score, no one can say anything. But if you don't,
Exactly.
you get daggers on
Exactly.
Monday. No, he scored and then he opened. I guess the game got opened up from there. And Sean, I mean, a lot of attention will come to the Springboks. And of course, they've changed the level of this team. And without them, the Sharks go nowhere near winning the Challenge Cup. So obviously, the Etzebeths, the Kochs, the Nches, Mbonambi, Mapimpi, those people are important. But it's really been that non-Springbok playing group. And I mean, we've talked about this a few times on the pod that, when the Stormers were in a similar position and sort of marooning, they just got a really strong base of non-Springboks and they became regulars. Obviously, they play pretty much every game because they're not selected by the national team. And they built the consistency, the cohesion, and they got the belief in themselves. And obviously, we saw that the Stormers have won one URC and won the final last season. And the Sharks can now sort of set that foundation going because now Buthelezzi's on form, Chituka's on form, Ethan Hooker's been a revelation at center. You have someone like Ntutuko Mtunu's getting more game time. Andre Jacobs at prop as well. Herbert Grobler looks really good. So those players are going to be the ones that can take the Sharks into the top 8 and into competing for the URC and the Champions Cup next season. I mean, the Etzebeths and those players are the finishing touches. It's the non sort of internationals that we've seen with pretty much all the other big domestic teams. The non-internationals are the ones that actually get you to compete for these trophies.
Absolutely. It's like when you play club rugby, when you go to a team or you join a club, you take on them, who they are as a club, and and what their like work rates and everything. That's what it's like. It's clubs are not about individuals. It's about everything. And we've been calling for it. Like they needed to create their own identity, and they've done it. They've done it in incredible circumstances. Like they've done it in a space, and as you mentioned, it's got to be the not big guys. It's got to be a guy that's been there for like 15 years, never had a look in at as being a Springbok or and very old Springbok who's not going to play again. Those kind of guys, like the guys that are always there, you're guaranteed, you know what you're getting out of them, stuff like that. They're the guys that create the identity, and then everything else is polished on top with the Springboks that come back in the case of the Sharks. And it's so important. Like, and as I said, like you normally take a couple seasons or you take a while to do it. The Sharks have clearly been trying to do it because they've been getting panelled for like 2 seasons. But for it to come in this season, the season that everyone was like, oh shit, they started losing, look at them, they're shit again. And they kind of pull it out. It was amazing because I've never seen it like this. Not in this situation, like three quarters of the way through the season that they pull it together, it seems.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the question is this now a foundation for, more sustainable success next season, or is this them getting themselves up for a big cup competition? So that will obviously be seen next season. But let's talk about
it's the best environment to come into. It's the best environment to come into. Think about, they've got like 5, 6 players that will be pushing for starting positions that are coming into that team. And they're coming into a very, very different environment that was there when they signed. Like, that's the difference. It's huge.
Yeah, you're not coming into a team that's losing and struggling and has their owner fighting John Smith on Twitter. You come into a team that's actually solid.
Oh, true.
So the Ferrari has a few gearboxes and it's sorted itself out. Sean, let's talk about the man of the match, Vincent Koch. Yeah, we've talked about the offload. We can talk about the scrums, but Sean, let's start with the 50-22.
It's the only thing to talk about, man.
Cooks, you've come at the right time.
No, I'm coming here, and the first thing I hear is Thala just throwing some shade at the Sharks.
No,
what?
You guys can fight later. We're talking about the front. Cooks, how did it feel deep inside when Vincent Koch put that 50-22 in?
It's the greatest. It's the greatest piece of rugby since the Chilean hooker found touch. Was it from Chile? Found touch.
Portuguese
hooker found touch
in the World Cup.
In the World Cup. Yeah, that was an incredible 50-22 from Vincent Koch. That should have won the Sharks the Challenge Cup alone. Just for that. I mean, I didn't see it in real time because I was chatting to someone and someone was like, oh, 50-22. And then they were like, oh, it was by Vincent Koch. I was like, no way. Then I saw the replay and I was like, oh, it's just, I feel like if a prop gets a 50-22, it should be like a penalty try. You should get 7 points immediately. And then still get the chance to attack. Like you get the 7 points already, and you're like, okay, but you can still attack for like an extra to get the extra 7 points. That's how rare a prop getting a 50-22 was. But that was an incredible play.
Yeah, and just in the context of he does the offload to create Buthelezzi's try. He does the 50-22. He's obviously just a big ball carrier, and we've always said he's got hands like a center, so he's always someone that has the threat of putting someone away, and he absolutely destroys Jamal Ford-Robinson. Cooks, I'm not sure if you saw what he tweeted before the game, the picture of the lion, the Gloucester lion, taking down the shark. To be fair to him, credit to him, he did then tweet another picture of the shark absolutely eating up the lion. But yeah, the Sharks, I mean, we know this is Springbok front row, so it's kind of expected now, but that's where they took control of the game, was taking control of the scrums.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you go back to the semi-final, the Sharks scrum struck a little bit against Clermont. So you probably, Claus is probably thinking, listen, if we can try and negate and do the same thing that Clermont did against the Sharks scrum, maybe we'll stand a chance. But we've seen what Vincent Koch and Ox have done off the bench through many international packs. And when Ox and Vincent are coming like that, there's not much you can do. I mean, but was the first 4 scrums was 4 scrum penalties. I saw the dominance early. I think that's where the Sharks won the game, but just asserting the dominance so early. I think, I don't know if you guys touched on it earlier, but I mean, the Sharks were so clinical on the weekend. I mean, that's been those performances have been saved exclusively for the champions for the Challenge Cup. But I thought those first 4 scrums set the tone, and once Ox and Vincent go to work like that, I mean, there's not much. It just breaks morale. We saw, I mean, what they did to England in the World Cup semi-final, but I mean, that was probably one of the best performances I've seen from a Sharks front row in a very long time.
There are 3 things you need to win a game: balls to the wall defense, strong scrum, and good kicking.
What?
Scrum.
Well, this is
as I said.
Thank you for joining our explicit Rugby Bits podcast today.
Yeah, sheesh. We're going to have to tick a whole bunch of extra boxes when we're loading this.
You see what happens when Thala gets back?
I know. Thala gets back. I get all hot and flustered, man.
Yeah.
Right. So, welcome back to regular viewing while I'm boiling up with heat over here, embarrassed. Right. There are 3 things you need: a strong scrum, balls to the wall defense, and a good kick. I can't believe I said balls, and I mean, yes, this is game over. But oh shit! Never.
The Sharks win 1 trophy, and you guys go off the rails. Oh my goodness!
That's such an important point to make. It doesn't matter anymore.
You're making such a great point, and then you just went patient.
Oh shit!
Let's try one more time.
Okay. There's 3 things you need to win a game. Balls to the wall defense. Like, the thing is, you can have a good defensive setup, but do you want it? And I always think back to like the All Blacks of when they were winning for 8 years straight. Their defense was hungry. The Springbok defense is super hungry. The Irish defense is quite hungry. Like, you need a system, but you also need the guys to buy in and really commit to it. You need a strong scrum, which the Sharks have. And as you mentioned, 4 penalties on the trot, like that breaks you emotionally big time. And then a good kick, whether it's Grant Williams' box kicks, which were almost all pinpoint, or kicking for goals. Like, those 3 things, I almost feel like they're the main foundation. And once you get to that, you're pretty much there, barring 1 or 2 things.
Yeah, Sean, thanks for bringing up Grant Williams, because I don't think I've seen his box kicking be that accurate in a big game like that. And he was absolutely on the money. I mean, we've been talking for the last 2 seasons about some of the differences between Williams and Hendrickson. Hendrickson was the kicking scrum off, but Williams, everything was on point on Friday evening. Maybe we can take this chance to sort of shout out to other sort of Sharks players that played well. And, you know, when you talk about Grant Williams' box kicking, Makazole Mapimpi's chasing was fantastic. Obviously, he's roared with the try. We know what he does now in these kind of big games, but yeah, he was fantastic. And I think Johnny May must be absolutely sick of seeing Makazole Mapimpi in the game now.
I love him. I don't think it's any surprise, but every game he pitches up. Every game. The one thing I love about Makazole Mapimpi is he does so much of the stuff. So people watching him, like, for a long time, people have said, no, he mustn't play anymore. He don't need to play. He himself said that he wasn't prepared to go to the World Cup. Not that he wasn't prepared. He just figured it was otherwise. But he also gets to show all the other things that wingers do. And you get to see it more with him. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe, he's got a very unique running style. I love the way he runs. He's a big guy. He's very aggressive in contact. He's got a good step. Like, he's really an all-round good winger, but he just rolled back the years, man, and dominated. Oh, it makes me happy, eh? Yo.
Yeah, he had a really good game. Cooks, I mean, we've talked about Koch, we've talked about Buthelezi before you came. Anyone else you want to shout out from the Sharks?
I mean, I'm sure he's probably spent the last couple of days being shouted out, but I think, again, just Sia Masuku again, I think 21 points in a final is always fantastic. And I just think it's been a whirlwind couple of months since he made his debut against the Stormers. And then to go from that and basically be banging down the door for a call-up. Jeez, Shark, you see what you've done now?
It's Ethan Hooker. Blame the hooker.
And then no, I'm just so happy for Sia Masuka. I think he's been fantastic, and the thing I've loved the most about him is that he's ticked every box when he first came through. Like, we saw his attack game and how good he was, taking the ball to the line, putting us into space. And the Sharks were playing a better brand of rugby. But then I think his best game was the semi-final, where if he doesn't get those 15 points in that first half, the Sharks were struggling, they don't win the semi-final. And now he's kicking the Sharks to victories in his boot. I mean, the one he missed, I was so surprised that he missed a kick. I was like, oh my word, this guy actually does miss kicks. But yeah, I think he's been a revelation for the Sharks. And I think obviously we've seen the change that's happened in Durban with the Sharks since he's come into 10. Yeah, just very, very happy for him. And I just think I also like the fact that we have the first trophy. As in, the Sharks and the Crickets have got a trophy already. I don't know what the Bulls are doing, Thala. You need to fix it. Like, just win your trophy in May.
Wow.
Get the job done early. Because now, basically, whatever happens all season, as a Sharks fan, I didn't even know there's UFC this weekend. Only found out today that there's still UFC happening for the next 4 weeks. I didn't know that. I thought
You guys
thought this.
Cooks, you've been out of the URC for about 2 months now.
In my mind, the Box are playing Wales next week. I'm already shifting my focus to the Box because the season is finished. Little did I know there's other competition. I mean, can you believe Sharky teams are still trying to get in the Champions Cup already? We are in. Like, teams are still fighting now. Rian hasn't slept for the last couple of days doing maths. He's going to come 7th. Oh, man. I was like, I'm going to come first to say, oh, man, all the stress. And the Sharks could basically play myself, Sharky, Jared, bring back Gay Teichman. Just let the fans have a run on the weekend. Just like, we basically, don't even play Eben. Let Eben, go on holiday for a month, come back just for the Bok games, rest Lucanio, all those guys. Let them put their feet up, because as a Sharks fan, our season's finished. Did we qualify for Champions Cup? We went a different route, but I feel like if we get knocked out the next year in the Champions Cup, we just took the Challenge Cup approach. It's less stressful. Now, Shane, poor Rian, he's having to do maths, like supporting Bafana. I mean, we're sitting in a prize position here, Shark, with our season being finished.
Remember the maths Sharks fans were doing last year and the year before, weren't they? Like, serious math.
Yeah,
same as Rian.
You had to beat Leinster and win the URC from 8th in order to qualify. That was ridiculous.
Yeah. Ringo, just a heads up, it doesn't work out for you. This is from experience, my man, and not from a place of hate, it's from a place of love. It doesn't work out. Just look to next season. Look for the Springbok call-ups. Like, that's where you need to represent. But good luck, my guy.
But Shocky, the only winner here is the Bulls, because if the Sharks could basically rest players and the Bulls would be like, okay, cool, maybe we can steal a win, get a win, get 5 points, and then they end up top 2. Or we play Eben and all the guys again next week to make sure the Bulls do not get a home playoff. Because a home playoff spot from the Bulls, it's either I'm working I'm not working the quarterfinal, but if they get the quarterfinal, then I'm working the semi in Loftus. So the Sharks actually hold my fate. I could have a weekend off in the middle of June, or I'm going to Loftus. So Sharks.
This is how it unravels. The Sharks need. This is when Rassie comes into the mix. The Sharks will now be doing and playing players in order to make sure that everyone's lined up with minutes and all that sort of jazz for the Springboks. So that's what the Bulls have to worry about. I mean, the Bulls could be sitting in a situation where they have to rest someone somewhere because they're in the knockouts already. Like, Rassie will just say, listen, it's not in the contract, but FYI, these 15 backline players can't play. Shit like that happens.
Yeah, look, as a fan of the Bulls that obviously wants them and knows that if we're going to win the URC, we probably need to play all the games.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Thala, Cooks, how does it feel to be sitting? I just leant back in my chair and was just like, yeah, everything's good. Because as you say, we've made it. We through. And Tyler's like, whoa, hang on a second. I've still got work to do. Yo, it's a big difference, eh? Never thought I'd feel like this again.
It's nice to have a trophy again. I mean, it feels like ages. But no, to be fair, I do want the Bulls to have a home playoff. Because I really want the Bulls to finish first, and then we can have potentially another final in South Africa. My dream is for every single URC final to be in South Africa. That is my ultimate dream.
Yes.
ever want to be anywhere else. I want us to have like 10 URC seasons, and then they've all been in South Africa.
I didn't even think of that. I love it.
And that's how we get kicked out of the competition. But yeah,
there's a lot of heat already.
I mean, Thala,
look,
we can get kicked out and Leinster will still lose the final somehow. So it's fine.
wow. Okay, let's hold the Leinster 5 for at least a few more minutes. Sean, we mentioned earlier that there was a bit of heat from some people about the Sharks celebrating winning the Challenge Cup. So Dan Retief had a word.
Dan.
Victor Manfield had a word. Do you want to respond to that?
Well, what the fuck? Sorry, I mean, what? Like, seriously. They are like that. It just smacks of jealousy or something. I don't know what it is. Victor Matfield, I can understand. Like the Sharks and the Bulls had some serious contests back in the day, so there's a little bit of hatred there. I totally get it. It's just such a weird thing. Like maybe you can turn around and say, well, listen, maybe the Bulls weren't that good, Victor, that you only won 3 in your 38 years of playing Super Rugby. Maybe that's the angle. Like maybe this competition is hard and the Stormers and the Sharks are just really, really good, which we know is not true. But anyway, like it was crazy. It was such a. I'll be honest. I think Victor Matfield's comment was not. It didn't come from a place of anger or bitterness. I really don't. I think it was more like he's still very much committed to Super Rugby. Obviously, he never played URC and all that sort of jazz. So like Super Rugby is still the best for him. And I think for a lot of South Africans, we grew up watching Super Rugby our whole lives. So like I think it's more personal that way. Dan's one was wild. Like, wow, that was crazy.
I think it's the funny thing is like when I read it, I was just like, not one time as a Sharks fan, we know the shit we've caught on the URC. We know that. And we didn't make this competition up. It's like the Challenge Cup started today. Like it's always been the case. Like the rules, it's the reward of you win the Challenge Cup and you get to play. And it just happens that the Sharks team is stacked with $1 million and it worked in our favor. But also like it's like a weird analogy to me, like saying don't celebrate. You start a bad season and good luck next season. Like, yeah, we get that. We know that, but surely we can still be like, oh, at least we got something to take out of the season. And we wanted to play in these competitions, and now that we are in, what's the difference? Like, I was like, now, were the Sharks supposed to be like, and the owners be like, hey, we won a competition, but guys, don't celebrate. Don't celebrate, guys. Like, we're not allowed to because of the mess that we are in. I mean, it opened. That's the perks of the Challenge Cup. So, I mean, can we not have a little bit of glimpse? Like the Sharks are the first African team to win a trophy, a European competition. Like that's why we moved there. Like, but now we got to be sad now because we like good luck in the Champions Cup. Does Dan not know we're gonna buy all the players now? Dan, we're gonna be stacked. Dan, we just took the season off this year. It's just a mistake. We just took some time off. Like now we can bounce back with. Now we just need to buy Artis Sevilla, get DuPont, just stack up all the Rock Nation money so we can launch a Champions Cup run. At least we know Sharky in our back pocket, like for like 2 seasons time. If you fuck out in the Champions Cup, we go to the Challenge Cup to lean back on. Like it's just nice to know that option.
Exactly, and you know the thing, like Dan Retief specifically was having a go at how they were celebrating. Let's go back 5-6 months. The Sharks went on like a record losing streak in the history of their game. I'm over exaggerating, but like they were shit. They were shit, and we were literally laughing, saying, "Thank God there's no relegation," because they would be gone. And then they go and they win this competition away from home. Like, yes, go big. And not only did they win, they went and won and got into the Champions Cup next year, which means so much more as well. Like, they must celebrate. They must still be celebrating. I can't believe they flew home the next day. Poor guys. They must have been, I was going to say they're going to be bubbleless, but they're no bubbleless if you carry on drinking, you know?
But like, why couldn't like the box like Airborne and them like, guys, we'll just stay here for the Qatar Airways Cup. We'll just see you in a month. We're gonna save our legs. We'll get stripped up to us.
And talk about bubbleless. I don't even know his name. The guy that took over the Sharks Twitter feed, Captain Springbok on Twitter. he was tweeting for the Sharks during the game. I think he said he got to bed after 4 o'clock in the morning, and he was jolling with all the guys. So there's big babalasses, and that's just the way it is. But you're right, they should have just stayed there.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think Rasik should just buy like a big hostel or something in London just for, the Springboks that are in between competitions, in between flights, and they can just stay there and just wait it out until, the next European game or whatever. So that should be maybe a sorrow priority for the next few months. Finally, Cooks, we talked about earlier that Gloucester have had a pretty interesting last few weeks. They put all their eggs into winning the Challenge Cup. They got beaten 90 points to 0 by Northampton. So how do you even begin to explain to the fans that you got beaten 90-0 and you still lost the Challenge Cup?
Yeah, I don't know what you see. Gloucester with the Sharks could have been if we didn't win the Challenge Cup as well. Like we sacrificed
both exactly the same.
From January,
They're both
and then
exactly the same.
No, but you're right. I mean, you take 90 now for no good reason is tough. Oh man, you know what I blame for this one? I blame Adam Hastings. That's what I blame. It's all Adam Hastings' fault.
Oh wow!
It would never happen if Gloucester decided to sign the better Scottish fly in Finn Russell. None of this would have happened for them. But because they have Adam Hastings, this all goes down to him. Thala, I've been telling you about this. I saw your shot to get Finn in the weekend, and I knew it was going to wait for a moment for payback.
Yeah. Shame poor. I mean, it wasn't a good game pretty much for any of the Gloucester players. I mean, Zach Mercer didn't really do himself any favors in terms of,
just carried a lot and ran into a massive defense.
Shame.
He just carried a lot. He just couldn't get through. I don't think it was shit on his part. I think he really tried hard, but sometimes you're just running into a wall.
Yeah, 23 carries, 36 meters, 14 passes. One of them was the intercept that Mapimpi collected.
And sorry, Thala. And the thing is he 20 whatever carries for 30-something meters. He's not a Bucky's Buerta carrier. He's not an urban carrier. He's got quick feet. He's like elusive. So he was beating guys a little bit or half beating them and just getting monstered. Like it's huge. It's massive. To lock him up was incredible.
Yeah, I think that's apart from the scrumming, apart from the good kicking, I think defensively the big thing that where the Sharks won this game is that Ruan Ackerman and Zach Mercer weren't really making big impacts with their carries. And if you stop Gloucester there, you stop their ability to attack and their ability to really make to get go forward meters. And Santi Carreras was also just lost under the high ball a lot of the time as well. So those few things you tick those things off. The Sharks have game planned well, and congratulations to them, the first South African champions of a European competition. And we'll see if there's more that comes after that. Gents, let's move on to this was a great game, but let's move to the main course of this weekend, which was the Champions Cup match between Toulouse and Leinster. It ends at the end of 80 minutes, 15 points to 15. And, it could have even ended before full time with Kieran Frawley missing a drop goal attempt in the last few seconds. And then in the extra time, Toulouse was just able to turn that intensity up, and they were able to stretch away to win 31 points to 22. That's Leicester's third loss in a row in the Champions Cup final, and Toulouse just had a really good game. And I think there's one place to start, which is the Champions Cup final, play of the match, and Champions Cup play of the tournament, with 14 try involvements, with 9 tries and 5 assists or something like that. No, 5 tries, 9 assists, I should say. Antoine Dupont. Sean, I mean, I don't even think it was the best vintage Antoine Dupont game, but just him leading the Toulouse team to really absorb all of that attacking pressure that Leinster had, and then obviously taking the chance that they did, he was at the forefront of that.
The people's final, my man. The people's final. The whole big talk up was about the nines, and rightfully so. After 80 minutes, maybe after 65, 70 minutes, you could look at both the sides and say they've totally got a plan to wrap up the other 9, like to keep them away from doing what they do. And Dupont was kept relatively quiet. Granted, he was on the back foot a lot, but that's his game. Like, he's solid on defense. And Gibson Park had ridiculous front foot ball, but he just wasn't able to do any of his normal incredible stuff with the crazy defense. So yes, you're right. I don't think that Dupont had like a vintage game, but the one thing about him is whatever level that he started at in 0.01 of a second of that game to where he finished in 100 minutes of the game were worlds apart, because he grew into that game like I've never seen anyone do anything. The closest I've ever seen that was, funny enough, a Champions Cup game, Toulouse versus Sale in Manchester or just outside. And the second half, Dupont just took control of the game, kicked Sale to death. It wasn't a high scoring game, but he controlled it. And this is what he did. I saw someone on Twitter said that Dupont actually called for them to, like, said that we kick the ball out, we'll take it into extra time. Like, that's something that's ridiculous. And the stuff he did just in extra time alone makes him player of the tournament. That player of the tournament post came out about half a second after the full time whistle went. That shit was sewn up a long time ago. But what a performance. And everyone's going to talk about him, because the thing is he was largely not there. He was there. He just wasn't doing what everyone was hoping he would do in a final. If this was the time for these two players to shine in a final, and he wasn't really doing it. And then he all of a sudden was like, wham, in your face, like turnovers, stopping mauls on his own, just doing all sorts of crazy shit. What an unbelievable performance. And boom, straight into the French 7 side. Let's go win us a medal.
Yeah, and those 250-22s, I don't even know what to say about those 50-22s.
Yeah. How do you get a rug? How do you get like, if you can't even kick a round ball there? It was such a small place for you to land a ball. Like, to do it with a round ball that's got a true flight would have been impressive. He's gone and done it with a freaking rugby ball under the world's amount of pressure, because the breakdowns, I'm not saying were a shit show in a bad way, like they weren't being policed. The breakdowns were just chaos. There was just constantly people just committing to the breakdown to upset the nines constantly. And he's just gone, cool, I got this. Let me just put it in that little, put it on a ticky or a penny or whatever the hell it is.
Cooks, yeah, like the breakdowns, I think Sean is right. I don't think it was Matthew Carley not policing the breakdowns. It was just that you have Kalen Doris, you have Jack Willis, you have, Julian Marchand, you have those players that just disrupt rucks the whole time. And Antoine Dupont, he got the David Pocock chip installed in him before this game as well. Like, it was just war at every breakdown. And I mean, Toulouse obviously won that battle at the end because they were really good with the turnovers in their 22, and they were really good with the counter-rack. It reminded me of, like, Prime Crusaders, where when they see an opportunity for a counter-rack, they just flood that rack. And yeah, I think part of that was probably the place where the game was won for Toulouse, is that they were able to control the racks. And even in the stats, it says that Toulouse had 12 turnovers won and Leinster had 8.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was, if you look at the finals, one of the better breakdown battles you watch, because like you said, both sides are incredible at ruck time. So it's basically skullduggery versus skullduggery basically in the breakdown. But it doesn't help now. You get someone like Dupont, who, like you said, who was an absolute menace, and that is a freak. But I really enjoyed that battle in the breakdown. And like, it's hard when people say, like, is it the ref or but also when sometimes it's just two teams that are very good at the breakdown, just basically finding ways to get some sort of edge. And I thought that, like you said, Thala, the big difference was Toulouse finding that edge, getting the extra turnovers, and also to beat Leinster, unfortunately, you have to stop them at breakdown, because they're so good at attacking rucks, and never mind just dealing, but the way they'd be able to put together phases is through quick ball, and Toulouse did so well to stop them at that source where Leinster couldn't get their proper patterns in the game as well, because of the extra pressure that Toulouse was putting on. But and because of Dupont as well, you can attack almost every single breakdown, because you have, like, Marchand can marshal wide, Dupont can pop in from whenever, and so no breakdown is safe for Leinster, which is very hard to do. And I thought Toulouse did it very well, and that's why they won the game in the weekend.
Yeah, it's just insane how much you can almost you don't have to worry too much about your ruck if you're Toulouse because Antoine Dupont is like the strongest scrum off it seems like ever because he can take all the pressure of Kalen Doris trying to kill him and Ryan Baird trying to kill him and James Ryan trying to kill him and absorb that and still be able to make a play. But even then, there was times where Doris was able to disrupt Dupont passing. There's a few passes from Dupont that went to ground. There's a few times where, they made mistakes from the rack, and that was just because every rack was a contest. Yeah, it just was such an intense. Like that was sort of we usually say some club games are test level intensity, and this game was definitely up there. So Toulouse, I mean, the game is at 15-15 at the end of 80 minutes. Leinster has pretty much most of the game. They have 60% possession and 60% territory for the whole game. And then in extra time, they open up and Toulouse is able to score a try. And they even still have a red card and they're still able to extend the gap afterwards. Sean, time to look at the Leinster side of things. I don't even know really where to start. They had the ball, they had the opportunities. They probably should have taken their points when it was offered to them, but they had enough try scoring opportunities to probably win that game relatively comfortably after 80 minutes.
Yeah. You look at it back now and you're like, oh, they should have taken their points. I think 19, 22 entries they did. And a whack of them, they got nothing out of it. But if you look back and you're honest with yourself as a player, the way they were attacking and the holes they were creating and running through, you're just like, the try's coming. You know the try's coming. You believe in everything. And they just get held out every time. When is the point? I think it was way, way late in the first half. Might have been the second half, early in the second half, when I thought, oh, they've probably got to start taking points here. Like not even I was really that worried about it because it was so close. And I must have said about 20 times, Leinster are going to score here. Like every single time they did something, we're so used to, whether it's them or Ireland, it's basically, but not the same setup. Like they make a line break, they make 20 meters through James Lowe somewhere along the line. Then there's gaps somewhere else and they're so good in their strike and they deliver. I think Ross Byrne is probably going to feel the worst of the lot. He's a very quiet 10. We're so not used to seeing that. And like a lot of people are painting him as like just really shit. I don't think he's really shit. I mean, he literally was running at 10 when Leinster went basically all the way, like head to head with them. I think it's like, I just don't think that it's wide in his brain to just break it out when need be, Just Johnny Sexton had it, like Frawley's got it. So that's the thing. Like we're so used to Leinster just going through the process. They are so good at going through the process. But with Sexton there was that little bit of stuff where they went, like they do something a little bit different just because it was on and everyone trusted him and went with him. But they don't really do that with Byrne and he doesn't really do that himself. So the thing is, we'll probably come at 10. If I had to find a space where there was probably an issue, it would be there. Having said that, though, it's not totally his decision to take those kicks. If Leinster decided to kick every single time they made an entry and won a penalty, he would have won man of the match because he's a good kicker. Yeah. And, that's 12 points in the bag, maybe more, 12, 15, maybe even 18. But Leinster have evolved. They've evolved into a different type. Like I heard someone say it's Leinster didn't take the kicks at polls because they wanted to run it because it's the Irish way. Bullshit. It's not the Irish way. The Six Nations only had try bonus points implemented like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But that was all about taking the points and winning the games. That's what Champions Cup's about. That's what Test match rugby is about. That's what finals are about. But Leinster will kick themselves for I wouldn't say not scoring, but they will learn a very valuable lesson in making sure they take their points. Leinster will change the way that they approach the quarterfinal, semi-final, and final of the URC, whether they make it to the final or not. This season will be very different. They will get like 15 points up off the boot, or they will push once to get a try, and if they don't get it, they will kick or they will just monster you with tries if they get their first one. So, I mean, I basically covered all the bases there. The thing is they are going to change because they, without a shadow of a doubt, were the strongest team on that field for large parts of that game, 70 minutes of it. And you felt that they were one try away from just opening up the taps, and they just didn't get that try.
Coach, do you think it's a mental thing with, Leinster losing these last three finals? Is it an ability thing? Is it just unlucky that they faced, two really strong teams and have just been unlucky in them?
They just need to start playing French sides in the final. I think that could be the plan. But I mean,
it's wait till the Bulls beat them in the final.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jesus, those need to start playing URC semifinals at home. I mean, that's also the arch nemesis. But I just think it's a hard one to put your to pin down, because I mean, I think the big one for them was that second loss to La Rochelle last year, where they did have that lead and they threw it away. But I think mentally, for me, is their ability to pick themselves up and put themselves in that position. I think, but it could be a mental thing. But it's just tough. I mean, Thala, you'd know as a Bulls fan, you got lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. Maybe.
Just body shots.
I wasn't even alive. Jeez.
I just wanted to throw that out there, Thala. I mean, that's just I was blowing up my point just to say that. But no, I think the upside for Leinster is they are getting a certain Jody Barrett and Tanyalo Tupou. So at least they'll be stacked to go again next year. But my question is, do you guys think Leo Cullen's in trouble?
Yes. They're 0 from 5. They're 0 from 5 since the South Africans have joined. They 0 from 5 with the strongest ever national team in the history of the game. And they're 0 from 5 with all those players playing for Leinster, majority. Leo is in big trouble. And can I tell you something? The fact that Jacques Nienaber is there makes getting rid of Leo Cullen a little bit easier. If it happened, I'm just saying, hypothetically. I think so.
I think he keeps his job if they win the URC. I think this URC run is quite important. Just so that we don't have this sort of question sort of rise again. Then it's more, hey man, they're unlucky.
Have you, because the Sharks, imagine playing a game you have to win. Imagine playing a game you absolutely have to win. England had to win the 2019 Rugby World Cup. The Springboks were not in contention only because we were in the final, and we destroyed them. Like, those are this stuff's affecting players. They are 0 from 5, trying to make it 1 from 6. In an era, I'm sorry, I've said it again before, in an era where they've never seen the likes of this talent in this form and this, that, and blah, blah, blah. It's crazy. Like, if they win the URC, they're in trouble. He's still in trouble next year, I think.
The only reason why I say it's a little bit different URC-wise is they have a clear run in the URC now. Like, usually the Champions Cup final was, I think, after the quarterfinal or before the semi-final, essentially. And then they'd have to try and rejig their squads like they did last year and the year before and then get caught out. This time, it's a clear run. So they're in the top 4. It's very unlikely that they'll get higher than when they are right now because all the teams have winnable games, especially because the Sharks are going to send the College Rovers to play the Bulls on Saturday. So
you hope. He's saying that with hope, ladies and gentlemen, with hope.
So they'll be 4th. They can prepare for that. Just rest all your first choice players and prepare to host the Stormers next week at the RDS or wherever. Then you are essentially, win that game, you're preparing to go either to Loftus or to Thorburn Park and then probably go to the other place for the final. Like, just say it out to the players, you're playing 3 weeks straight out, no funny business, no resting rotation. Our best side is playing the next 3 weeks. And you guys have to show everyone else that you guys are more than capable of winning these games. And the only reason why you haven't won the URC is that you've been focused on the Champions Cup. And the only reason you haven't won the Champions Cup is La Rochelle's been, built a mini dynasty and Toulouse has the best player in the world. So then it becomes at least somewhat more understandable, like that they've just had, it's been more unlike, just misfortune than, a lack of ability. I just am not sure if they lose like to Munster, especially in the URC, be it the semi-final or the final. Geez, I think that's when the the cows come home, and it's going to be quite difficult for Leo Cullen. I'm not too sure though, because Sean, if I'm not mistaken, Andrew Goodman's moved to coach the national team, right? And Tyler Blindal is going to come in as the attack coach. Jacques Nienaber came in the middle of the season. So there's always the excuse that this team isn't really too familiar with each other. So you can kind of, move around to that, because it's not like Jacques Nienaber, yes, he obviously has the experience, but it's not going to be his coaching staff. Like, they've already committed to, Blindal, for example, for the attack. So, it's not going to be the easiest transition. I think Cullen probably nonetheless gets, another season at least to try and win this.
How do you, if 3 years ago I told you that Leinster would not win if I told you they wouldn't win a Champions Cup in 3 goes, that would be, okay, maybe they could. And I told you that they wouldn't be able to win a URC in 2 goes. Like, if you told anyone that, like, they would just be like, well, no, that's not going to happen. There's no ways they don't win something with the current crop of players and blah, blah, blah. Like, the players knew that as well. I wouldn't say they knew that, but when you're in a good team, like, some things go for you, some things don't, but when you're on a good wicket and they've had that team together for a long time. This is the kind of stuff that starts really eating away at you. So the changes and stuff, yes, I think how you package it, it'll be hard to tell the guys, don't worry about it, because, you were focused on one thing. Now we're going to look at something else. I agree with you. Having the Champions Cup final position the way it is now allows them to really, like, just focused on just one thing, and that's winning the URC without juggling tournaments and, having tests in between and all that sort of jazz. So I think that could be something good for them. And the other thing is they truly are a really, really good team with a hell of a lot of really, really good individuals. So they could just go on to win it regardless. The thing is the doubt is there. That's what kills you and kills any team, is just that doubt. And that doubt will be Munster. The rivalry is ridiculous. Like, Munster will be totally reminding them of that. So if ever there's any bit of doubt, they'll just be like, oh, just remember the last time you had this doubt, you didn't win the game. So goodbye.
The crazy thing is that you look at last season, for example, they only lost 3 games. I mean, that against the Bulls, when the Bulls absolutely destroyed them when they were playing with all those kids at Loftus, and then you lose a semi-final and a final. So there are moments of being on the brink of an incredible run of Ronan O'Gara led La Rochelle side, Munster, big performance in a semi, and the Bulls go and put a performance up there in Ireland, and then they could have been dominating European rugby, but it's the margins are so fine with them. I think this what makes it hard. I mean, like, now they go to the playoffs. I mean, they're in a position now, if Glasgow and the Bulls win, they're going to have to win the URC away from home, and potentially have to come down to South Africa, or have to go to Munster, go to Limerick, and to win the URC. So maybe is that what they need to actually to end this, by maybe just get in a position where you're on the road. It's just the squad. It's you guys away from home, because last year, they lost the Champions Cup final at home, and they lost the semi-final at home. So there's got to be something there, and I think it's probably one of those ones where they just need to tick off one tournament. I think the URC can change it. Maybe just getting over the road in one tournament, just getting the trophy, and then maybe that will put them in good stead for next season when they make that big European Cup push again. Not like you said, Thala, that there's coaching changes, new players coming in. So they're just in an interesting place, because they just can't seem to just get the job done. It's almost like their national side just can't seem to win quarterfinals. I mean, there must be something. There must be something. They're just like racking up all these voodoos now. I mean, so I don't know what they must do. Maybe they'll play Challenge Cup for a year. Maybe try that route just to win a trophy.
I thought that was the Sharks trophy.
No.
They can have it next year. They can try.
I'm giving Leinster hope, Thala. Like, if you want to break a trophy drought, just go play the Challenge Cup.
The one thing about Leinster, if they go and win the URC with 3 games away from home, which unlikely, but the semi-final and final could be, that everything we've said is flipped on its head. Like, they will turn into a dominant squad again. Well, maybe not. A couple of guys are on the edge, but they've got such an amazing conveyor belt. So, I wouldn't put it past them. But they're the kind of side that if they won that quarterfinal against the All Blacks by 1 point and came from behind, like win that kind of a game, like that changes everything for the next 2 to 3 years, maybe more for them. So you're right. They've got something. They need to go into the mountains and go find themselves, because there's stuff that's happening. Right? There's stuff that's happening, and it just creates a doubt, and it sits there, and it's in the back of your head. Doesn't matter how well you prepare and how professional you are. One little thing goes wrong in the game, and you're just like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah, I think the last thing to say about Leinster is a lot of the things were there in order to win a game. So the scrum, I mean, flip.
Yeah.
Trying to regulate a scrum between Andrew Porter and Dorian Aldegheri is impossible because both of them don't really scrum straight. But they were getting the ascendancy in the scrum and got pretty much all the scrum calls or the penalties. So the scrum was there. They had almost double the meters that Toulouse had. They just weren't really creating many opportunities like clean breaks. They were basically even with that. And they just were, especially in the first half, just dropping the ball and passes were misplaced. I don't know if it was nerves. You started seeing someone like Jamie Osborne look more like, a rookie player than, the classy players looked in most of the season. And, that happens to a
100%.
young player. I think even Joe
100%.
McCarthy had a bit of a shaky start as well.
He did, but he had a good game though. The thing is
back,
you mentioned Osborne, you bang on. I honestly thought Henshaw should have played at 12. That for me
but the
was
problem
a
was
big one.
Ringrose wasn't fit.
So, but they've got other options at 13.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so I guess it's just one of those where they just didn't really start well. I think it's a very different game if Leinster scores from one of those first attacks. And again, to go back to Toulouse, just shout out to them. They stopped some certain try scoring opportunities. I mean, the work that Blake Kinghorn did to stop rampaging Dan Sheehan and then Anton Dupont getting to that rack first and turning over that ball is ridiculous. Jack Willis, I mean, I know there's some count that says he had 40 tackles, but it seems like it is closer to 29 tackles.
31 attempts, 21 complete, 29 complete.
That's just absolutely ridiculous, regardless of what the final numbers are. It was a team defensive effort, and it somewhat, obviously looking at a team coached by Nienaber, there was a lot of, that Springbok scrambled defense that Toulouse had, because when Leinster did get across the lines, Toulouse was able to organize their defense to chase down the person that made the break and to get themselves set up in order to stop, that killer move in order to score the try on the other side. And they just were able to do it again and again. And they gave Leinster no real sniff of the try line up until, much later in the game. And then I thought Toulouse had the game won near the end when Tamak sends that cross kick to Labelle. And I don't know why Labelle tried to score that himself. But he did make up for it later when he scored that really good try on the wing there.
Yeah, it was like it's all coming flooding back. I've just written down some notes that I wanted to say, and you've nailed it. The scramble defense from Toulouse was a la Springboks 2019-ish. Like our scramble defense 2019 Lions tour was ridiculous. And that was the thing. Funny thing, like I tell about how you like win tournaments, strong scrum, good kick, and then like and a massive defense, and that's basically what Leinster had, and they didn't get through. But I still don't know how Toulouse stopped Leinster from scoring a try in 80 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Quick, let's shout out some individual performances. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Dupont, we've talked about Jack Willis. Any other players you want to shout out for just a brilliant final that they played?
I just want to shout out Blake Kinghorn again. I mean, the dog is when do we put him in the? He's knocking on the door on the world class player in the way he's changed life in Toulouse. I mean, since he's got there, I mean, you think when you sign there, you're probably thinking about maybe is it cover for Ramos? I mean, obviously he can play 10 and 15, but he's made that 15 jersey his own, and he's operating on a level that I think in Scotland they probably knew and they hoped he'd get to, but he's been absolutely cooking for them all season long, and he's been a fantastic signing. And to cap it off with another great performance in a final, he's definitely. I think obviously now you want to see how he goes with Scotland, but he's definitely putting himself in the conversation of being in the top 15s in the world at the moment because he's been absolutely cooking for Toulouse.
I've got two. Andrew Porter. I know his scrummaging is questionable, but to play 88 minutes in a Champions Cup final, and then he still came on again afterwards, I thought was incredible for a prop. Like, when last did we see that happen? But for me, probably the biggest player, someone that came in and took over from someone that was injured that really is dominated, but Santi Chocobares at 12, he was crazy.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
he came in the 20-something minutes. Peter Aki went down. Funny enough, Leinster just destroyed Cost in the first play off that. Like, it just exploited the communication breakdown between the two. But the midfield got their shit together afterwards. And Chocobares was brilliant. He's a massive human. I mean, he does all the bench pressing, but he's set up an offload, pass for the try to Lebel. I just was really impressed with the way he played. And we obviously all thought that he would get more time. Toulouse has been up and down, but Peter Aki has been incredible at 12.
Yeah, look, just shout out to Leinster for first scrum attack that they got. They went straight to that midfield combination. I don't think teams often do that. Like, you see a new player come on or a player that's a bit unsure of themselves or injured, whatever. Attack that player. Like, there's no reason to let them settle into the game. And Leinster, I love that they did a backline move to try and attack that the new player to try and expose sort of the miscommunication there. Three players for me very quickly. I thought Manny Miafu and his ability to just disrupt Ruxin Moors is just otherworldly. You know, he's. I'm so excited that we're gonna see him now in international rugby for the next 10 or so years. Like, he's just an absolute menace, and he's a big menace as well. So it's very hard to move. And he was just able to lead counter-rucks to get the ball back. Probably him and Jack Willis were probably the leaders of that. And he just, the Leicester Moore was putting Toulouse under pressure in that first half. And him and Flamand were really at the front of just saying, nah, we're not doing that. Secondly, Paul Cost. I asked on Twitter a few weeks ago, who does Paul Cost remind you of? And someone said it because I was thinking it was Conrad Smith. And there's a lot of Conrad Smith in that guy. Like,
can I tell
the
you something?
Defensive awareness, the reads, he's got it, man.
I don't rate him. Like,
you don't? Wow.
I don't. I did. There was an incident earlier this season where I just think is a bit of a chop, but I can't let that get in. But I don't rate him yet. Having said that, 13 is a hard space, and he's won so many freaking trophies already for a youngster. I think there's opportunity. I think there's opportunity in that 13 channel when he's there. I really do. But I haven't watched the game over again. After that mistake, obviously when I saw it was him, I was like, oh, whatever. But you don't play against Leinster for 100 minutes. I mean, he played just under an hour, but you don't normally play that long and not concede a try by being shit, especially at 13. So, but I don't really rate him yet. I think he's still got time. I think maybe he just pisses me off, and that's why I don't like him. Maybe it's more a don't like versus a don't rate.
Yeah. Cooks, that's what we need. People must be honest about their agendas. Don't now go, I don't think Richie McCaw was a good player. Like, just say I hate the guy. Then we can all move on with the conversation. Like, that's a lot better.
I think it's, Sean is onto something here because there's certain players that you just don't like. And you don't know what it is. You're like, I don't care what he does. You can win all the Man of the Match awards. And you're like, I just don't like him. It's like the Dupont thing, right? Like, the obvious conversation about him being the greatest player. There's certain people, like for example, like if you say, I think Dan Carter is the best player in the world, like some people will never shake that. So like Dupont could do all this. I'm like, sorry, no, I'm not budging, because like there is the element of that, like with Dupont, where someone can say like, I just don't like him, not my cup of tea, because it's always going to be like, well, Sharky's right, because like sometimes if you don't like a guy, if you think he's a noble, like whatever he does, you can rate him like you're a good player, but I'm like, I just don't like you, so I'm never ever going to fully accept you.
Yeah. And then very quickly, the last player to shout out is Romain Ntamak. I thought he was brilliant at 10 and he really controls the game so well. Like, yeah, you can see the difference and what France was missing in last year at the World Cup. Just the kicking, the defense is absolutely epic. I think he was fourth for most tackles made in the game as well. He made some big turnovers. He should have created a try if Lebel was, awake to the opportunity. He was really good also in the try that actually did happen. Like, that's I think with Ntamak, he's almost, he does crazy stuff. We know that. I mean, he scored a match-winning try in a top 14 final last season, but it's the understated things that he does. He's really good defensively. He's really good with his kicking game. He doesn't allow his team to be put under pressure. It's only, I think, when Ramos and Dupont are whispering sweet nothings into his ear, then he gets a bit bat crazy. But usually he's, it's keeping the structure for the team. And, you know, I thought Ross Byrne actually, to go back to what Sharky was saying earlier, I thought Ross Byrne actually had a very good first off and he was just sort of tailing off. And with someone like Ntamak, when the game got tight, he was just able to really do his part in his channel. And when the time came to really control, territory and possession for Toulouse.
This game was really like there was nothing in it. We're talking about it like Toulouse won comfortably. There was nothing in it. Someone that didn't get a mention, but I really think deserves a shout out is Alex Rumor at 8.
Yo,
I
love him
didn't.
now.
Yes. And he's a splitting image of his dad, just minus 20 kilograms on the face. It looks like quite a skinny face, but he was good. He was quietly good during a game where there were so many people doing so many good things. He was that unseen glue. And I was quite surprised with him at 8. I thought they might have gone a different route. But again, I haven't watched a hell of a lot of Toulouse in the top 14, so I wouldn't know. But he held his own and then some. Interesting battle between him and Doris and him and the Lucies, but I thought he deserves a shout out for definitely probably an unsung hero in this game.
Yeah. We did talk about Jack Willis, right?
No, we're going to do it right now.
Look, Sean, Steve Borthwick has to select him. I don't care about what the rules say. He's the best flank in England right now.
His name escapes me now, but he played for Toulon, the open side flanker.
Stefan Armitage.
Yes. When Stefan Armitage left, they were like, you have to change things. Then his brother left and they thought, no, you have to change it. Then Nick Bendenin went to Clermont. Zach Mercer. And these are all guys that went that could, I think probably would have walked into the England side at the time in one position or another. Like, they have to do something with Jack Willis. He's put in a test match performance in a test match environment in a position where England could really use some help. And when he's played for England, he's dominated. So the problem is he signed a contract extension with Toulouse, which then made his England chances go up in smoke. But you've got to do something. And I mean, I know everyone's going to cough up their cornflakes when I say it, but Owen Farrell's going to France too. So if they make that change, they're getting 2 incredible players alone. That'll help them. But, are they going to dig their heels in? Because, I mean, there's a massive shitstorm going on in New Zealand now at the moment for almost the same, not the same thing, but I mean, one of the same things.
I think surely there's going to come a time where international sides drop this rule about players not playing in their country, that they aren't eligible to play for the national side. I mean, especially for someone like Jack Willis, who's been absolutely carving it up, and then now Farrell's leaving, and then, for example, like you look at the All Blacks, who basically are one Damien McKenzie injury away or Bowden Barrett injury away from not actually having a fly off. Lord knows who's going to play blindside flank this against England, because basically all their players are like, again, we discussed what's happening in Japan because Sam Cane was there for one season. He's like, yeah, I'm not coming back to this. I'm going to come back to the All Blacks for a year. Then I'm going back to life in Japan. And Richie Mwanga obviously went for 2 days. He was willing to retire from international rugby. So I think I wonder what's going to happen. Like, surely it's going to get to a point where the game is going to go global, almost like a sort of like football, where you sort of, it doesn't matter where you play, but if you're good enough to play for your country, whatever league you play, you should be able to play for your country. I think I don't know, but I mean, surely that time. I mean, it's fine if you're in France, I mean, because everyone's going to France anyway. But I just think surely there's going to come a time because there's too many good players not playing international rugby at the moment.
France, I'm glad you mentioned France because they're the one side that people don't really think about, but they do it. But everyone does play there. I don't think it's a hassle. I think Australia and Wales. Sorry, guys, just chill. But I think Australia and Wales have got it down where they're not like England and they're not like New Zealand, where they're like, if you step foot off the shore currently, you are not available. Where Australia are like, cool, we'll allow wiggle room for X, Y, and Z to play, and you need a certain amount of caps and blah, blah, blah. I think that's the way to go. And that's almost the gateway drug for them to allow it. Like, you can't go wrong. Like, you can call it the own Farrell law, whatever. Like, you can do something along those lines, but you have to do something. It's going to happen. And the thing is the Springboks, the blueprint for it. They're like, cool, go and do your thing. Teach our players all you need to do, and then we'll just use them when we need to use them.
Tell it to Alistair Coetzee, where guys to get 30 caps first in order to playing overseas, and then that rule got abolished the day he lost his job. You're like, oh, everybody can come back.
I just want to say the first Springbok squad that Rassie Erasmus announced had only one player that Alistair Coetzee couldn't pick.
Sean, why are you ruining a great narrative?
You know how many people Alistair Coetzee is telling in a bar in Windhoek that if he had the same opportunities as Rassie, he would have done the same things?
Just one. But more importantly, what about those players that Alistair Coetzee tainted as well? Not him specific. I mean, yes, him, but it was a combination of SA Rugby and him. Absolutely. I do agree with that. I don't think it was only him. But I mean, there's a lot of guys walking around with that are like cooking the best form they've ever been in their life. And everyone's like, I will not touch you.
Yeah, there's still a place for Dylan Lates in my dream Springbok squad. But yeah, that
Raymond Rule got it. He was pushing hard at one stage too, I thought that.
Yeah, it's fluttering away, that hope.
Unfortunately, there had to be sacrifices made from 2016-17, so some guys couldn't come back. Whatever they did, they're like, we can't just give everyone a second chance. So some guys, unfortunately, were like, you're going to be tainted with your last capping in 2017.
Thala, you want to talk about Jack Willis?
No, I want to ask if we can move to quickly in the last few minutes talk about URC permutations.
Let's.
Okay, so very quickly, it's a mess in the URC log. I think that's the short story of it.
And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening.
So 9 teams, 8 positions, 7 now going to the Champions Cup thanks to the Sharks. And yeah, there's still a bit of, maneuvering that can still happen in this week. So we can just go very quickly team by team and just say what the team needs to do, who they're playing, and sort of the chance of that happening. So there's not the team at the top, Munster, and I think they're on a 8-match winning streak at the moment. They're playing Ulster, who also are still in the playoff hunt. So Munster's top of the log. They have a 2-point gap to the Bulls. Ulster's at 6th. They're just a point behind the Stormers, and they've got a bit of a cushion to 7th and 8th. So, gents, we don't see Ulster winning this game, right?
I don't see it.
I don't, but it's a derby. Like in derbies, when there's one team that has got absolutely pumped the whole season. Like, granted, I don't think Ulster, there's a very small chance that they don't qualify, but other than that, they qualified for the playoffs. But what is the plan for them? I think that's, yeah.
So let's go quickly through what needs to happen. So if Munster wins, they're top of the log and they're hosting any knockout game should they qualify. Munster basically just needs to make sure that if the Bulls win against, the against, Glenwood or whoever plays on Saturday against the Bulls, that they can just match that result. For Ulster, like you said, Sean, there is a small chance they can still fall out. So that would need less so. Okay, so it's not necessarily a chance to fall out of qualification because Edinburgh and Benetton are playing together. One of them has to lose, so one of them will still stay behind them. And then even if the Lions get 5 points and the winner of Edinburgh Benetton gets 5 points, they'll be eighth. So they still qualify for the quarterfinals, but they won't qualify for the Challenge Cup. So for Ulster, they need 1 point at the very least to help their chances. But even with that 1 point, it might not be enough because the tiebreakers go on wins as well. So Munster basically needs to win. Ulster needs to get a point, probably 2, in order to be safe and for them to get 6th. But also, if Ulster wins, they could get 5th, and 5th place could likely be a quarterfinal against Leinster, who they just beat.
Very interesting. We talk about Ulster having a bad year, but they've won 11. The Stormers have also only won 11 of their 17. Yeah, so I think Munster win this. I'm not sure if they're bonus point, but they don't need to. They just need to win. So I think Munster win it. But Ulster, I have a feeling that they will get 2 points minimum out of this game. If they lose, they'll get 2 points. I think it might be a little bit closer than expected because Munster are also going to be eyeing finishing top. So if they kind of get the win in the bag, they really know it. You know what I mean? It's like one of those weird ones. And also, John Cooney is cooking at the moment. The man is on fire. So, yeah, I say Munster win. Ulster with 2 points.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, if Ulster wins, it throws the cats amongst the pigeons. Of course, if you're from Pretoria, if you support the Bulls, that's what you're supporting. So you are an Ulster fan for the weekend. For the Bulls, they're second. They're facing the Sharks. They're in a precarious position because Leinster and Glasgow are a point behind. And because Glasgow's facing Zebre and Leicester's facing Connacht, I mean, that's a difficult game though. The Bulls probably need to get maximum points against the Sharks in order to go through. So good things for the Bulls is that they've got a stronger points difference. They're all level on wins, which is the first divider for if you have the same points. So as long as they win and win relatively healthily against the Sharks, they should be fine for second place, even if they don't get a bonus point. But the Bulls basically have to assume that probably both Leinster and especially Glasgow will get 5 points from this game. So Bulls, Sharks, Cooks, is there confirmation? Is the mayor of Durban closing down Durban for the week? Like, we're not getting, the Sharks first team here, right? Right? Please tell me that we're not getting Ebenezer Beth.
Yeah, I don't know actually, because there was a game after the semi-final in the Challenge Cup. The Sharks went full straight. I think they played Benetton. Which I was quite surprised by, but I don't think so, Thala. I think if you guys might be rested, and which might work in the Bulls' favor, and the Bulls actually go on and rep. Because I think now, with especially the Sharks are probably thinking with the Springboks. I mean, you got to look ahead in terms of some guys, give them the extra bit of rest, and then get them ready to play the Welsh or get them in for the Irish. So I think Thala, it could be a lucky day, and I think the Bulls get the. I mean, I think the Bulls are good enough to win even against a full strength Sharks side, but I think the Bulls will get a bonus point to win this weekend.
Thala, I'm sorry for you, man. The Sharks are going to be playing on home soil after winning a trophy. Like, stadium's going to fill up or be full. The Bulls are coming to town. They're going to name, maybe not full strength, but they'll be close to full strength. I think we're in for a game. But the Bulls would probably be focused for longer because at the end of the day, for the Sharks, it's only a Derby Day game, which they aren't expected to win. You know what I mean? It's not like they're pushing for log position or anything like that. So if they're in the game for long, I think the Bulls might be in a little bit of trouble and might make it uncomfortable for them is probably the better word. But I think, Thala, you will win, but it might be in the balance for a lot longer than you're expecting.
Yeah. Look, Sharks can select who they want. They must just do like Man City and just come hungover to the final, to that final game. That's all I'm asking for. Like, you don't have to. Etzebeth can play whatever. Monabi can play. Just come a bit tipsy. That's all I'm asking. That will help the Bulls a lot. Glasgow's facing Zebre. we can put them for 5 points. But because of the whole points difference situation, Glasgow could run up a score. And I mean, that's a team that can score, a lot of tries when you need them to. Leicester on a pretty awkward position because, they're playing on a Friday night after playing in a European final for 100 minutes. Thanks, URC. If Leo Cullen was Pep Guardiola, he'd be complaining about that for sure. And Connacht, they're playing Connacht, and Connacht still has a small but realistic chance of getting into the top 8. So Connacht needs to, number one, probably win and win with a bonus point. And then number two, basically hope that whoever loses from Edinburgh and Benetton gets 0 points. And of course, that the Lions also get 0 points from their game against the Stormers. So they can still sneak into the quarterfinals. So Connacht will be game. Leinster, there is obviously the chance that they could get into second, depending on how other results go. But Leinster basically needs to get 5 points because Glasgow get 5 points and hope that the Bulls either lose or get 4 points and they have a big points difference. Yeah, Cooks, I'm not sure what Leinster does. I don't know if they're going to select a strong team or if they're going to rest their players because it's a 6-day turnaround.
I think they got the squad to sort of balance it out, and it is tough. I mean, to go extra time and then have to play on the Friday night. They probably think they have a squad good enough to win, whether they've rested players. I mean, it's something we've seen them in the URC. We've seen them rest players in a semi-final before. So I think they'll definitely rest players and think they'll back themselves. I genuinely think also, like, Leinster probably, as much as they'd love to be at home, I think after the hurt of the final, in their mind, is like, let's just get in the playoffs and we'll win wherever. And I think, so I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a few guys not playing this weekend.
Yeah, we'll have to see with that. And then on Saturday afternoon, 2 games with a bit of a staggered kickoff. So the Stormers face the Lions, and then 15 minutes later, it's Edinburgh versus Benetton. And pretty much all of those teams have a lot of playoff permutations there. For Edinburgh and Benetton, it's basically a straight knockout game, essentially. The winner is in, the loser then has to wait nervously to see what happens in Cape Town. So, Sean, do you have a particular leaning towards that Edinburgh Benetton game? Benetton's playing at home. Obviously, they did pretty well in South Africa. Edinburgh's have been a bit up and down the second half of the season. Who do you think wins that game?
Sure. The biggest question was where they're playing. Benetton at home.
Benetton
have done well. Yeah, have done well away from home as well. This break would have been great for them. That's what I feel. If we're going to make a call, I say Benetton win at home.
Then, should Benetton win or whoever wins there, the Lions will be hoping that they win only with 4 points. And then essentially, because of the tiebreakers starting with wins, so even though the Lions, Benetton, and Edinburgh are all level on 49 points, the Lions have 1 less win than Benetton and 2 less wins than Edinburgh. So what the Lions need to do is to basically get more points than whoever the win of Edinburgh Benetton gets so that they can get 7th place. So the Lions have to come to Cape Town, to the Stormers, and get 5 points, while the Stormers are trying to defend their place at to defend their log position at 5th. And yeah, I mean, the Stormers will see on Saturday morning, who of Leinster and Glasgow has won, but they will only see afterwards if the Bulls are going to win or not. So the Stormers can't even try to game themselves into, South African quarterfinal, whatever the case is. This match is going to be very interesting, Cooks, because I think even just if it was a full strength on strength match, I would probably say the Lions are maybe slight favorites because they have more form than the Stormers at the moment. Stormers have lost Damien Willemse. They have been quite inconsistent this season. But this, obviously, the Lions having to probably chase for a bonus point kind of plays in the Stormers' hands as well. I think we've talked about matches like this before. The main thing for the Lions is don't try to score 4 tries in 10 minutes. Just build yourself into the game. The tries will come. But Cooks, yeah, this game could be an absolutely insane performance and could be a try-fest for the Cape Town faithful.
Yeah, I think this for me is the game of the weekend. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. I think with the Lions, if push comes to shove, they can get a red card, and then that's when they really start cooking. So there was that option of there was that option just in case. I lean I lean towards the Stormers because I mean the Stormers are incredible at home. So I think that makes the Lions' task even harder because I mean the Stormers don't lose many games at the DHL, but so I think for a Lions fan it's going to be tough. And they'll have to. The nice with the Lions is I mean it's when I go home. It's they have to throw it in the park. So if you're in Cape Town, that is definitely a good game to go watch because I mean there will be tries this weekend. I think, but it's just hard for me to go against the Stormers in Cape Town. The only time I bet against the Stormers at home is when they play Ospreys or Munster.
They're sworn rivals.
Yeah,
so this is a lesson to South African fans. Don't always be happy for teams that are not your own teams. Now, Lions fans are all happy for the Sharks, and now you can't play in the Champions Cup next season, or you need, a lot of points for this to happen. Guys, let the hate fuel you, please. Never be happy for these other teams winning stuff.
Yo, guys, I'm having a mare.
So we'll see. But yeah, there's a lot of games. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about the other two games. I'm not going to, who cares about Cardiff Ospreys and Scarlet Dragons? That's probably Judgment Day, right?
It's Judgment Day. I was just going to say it's Judgment Day. It's massive. It's massive in Wales.
You see, when
and that's where it's going to stay.
I get cooked, but if Thala says it, it's fine. You see, Thala, we use this whole season to build up good comms again with the Dragons. We're just so close to, for them to forgive rugby, but they're going to say that now. On the last week of it's their last game, but now we've ruined all this progress we've made this whole season. We waited until the last game to just ruin it.
Shame. Actually, to be fair, Ospreys do have a very small chance of still making it. So number one, they've got the last game, so they could actually work out what they need to do by the time kickoff happens. They essentially need Connacht to lose, Lions to lose, and then whoever from Edinburgh and Benetton to get 0 bonus points, the loser in that game. So draw would not help them. And then they need to get a maximum of 5 points, and they could maybe just sneak into the top 8. If all of that happens. So they're facing Cardiff. Cardiff has been the second best Welsh team. So yeah, actually, I'll take it back. The Ospreys Cardiff game will be one to watch. Scarlets and Dragons, they'll be watched by Cooks.
To
build up foreign relations.
Just to foreign relations. I'll be there, just chilling with myself. Me and my Dragons fans at 4:00. Who needs to watch the Sharks and the Bulls? I'll be watching the Scarlets take on the Dragons.
There we go. That's what we need here. Very quickly, gents, to finish off, Premiership semi-final predictions. Cooks, I'll start with you. Northampton versus Saracens. Northampton hosting them.
I think I'm going to go Northampton.
Shocky?
I'm going to go with Saints as well, which is weird. I think I'd love Saracens to win, but I think Saints win it.
I'm still believing. I'm going down with the ship with Owen Farrell.
Yes.
I'm still believing.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you then. I'm changing. I'm going Saris. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, these Northampton people have been way too happy with all their running rugby and enterprise. Come on, we need to drown that quickly with some pragmatism from Saracens. And then Bath versus Sale. Cooks, how do you see that one going?
Ooh. I want to lean towards the South Africans here and the Jupria boys. I'm going to go with Sale.
I'm going Bath.
Yes. I genuinely don't know. I mean, Sale, they got that win to get into the top 4, beating Saracens at home, which basically never happens. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I'll go with Bath just because they're at home, but yeah.
What about Cooks? You are the weakest link.
No, Shane. Cooks is going to say I hate him and stuff. Let me go for Sale. Let me do prayers. Let's see what you guys have got.
Okay, then I'm flying solo for Bath. I will not change.
Shocky had a quick shout out.
I just want to give Joey Mangala a shout out for what the Sharks did on Friday night. Their defense was incredible, and it's been slowly building. And there was a lot of talk about him and his movements and his system and how he should be head coach and everything. But he's taken this on with a Shark side that we mentioned 1,000 times been building up. But it all came together at the time it needed to come together, which is in a final. And I think he deserves his plaudits.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've got a really talented coach there with Mogalo. Like, yeah, it's great that he's now shown in two franchises, his value and yeah, how he's been able to really build that Sharks defense. Takes a lot of credit. Yeah, I mean, Plumtree's looking pretty plum in a seat right now. Powell has less pressure. Marco Mazzotti can show his face in public. It's good there in Durban right now.
Better believe it.
But yeah,
A quick shout out before we go as well.
go for it.
I mean, it's finally the last regular season weekend of Fight Club, aka Super Rugby Pacific, and the funniest thing could happen if the Crusaders win this weekend. They could come eighth, and I just imagine being the Blues or the Canes, where you could come first, and then as a reward for that, you get the Crusaders in a
In a knockout
quarterfinal.
game. No, thank you.
Oh, that would be amazing. And also, shout out to Rob Penny of not knowing to, before you call for a C-bomb, just wait until the mic comes off. Like, don't know why you're being unmiked. Like, oh my word, Rob Penny's going through the most right now. I'm like, oh geez, thank goodness he actually won on the weekend. But but I'm glad that like I said, Fight Club is finally getting this semi-final. So this could be a very funny weekend if you a Blues or Hurricanes fan.
So a team with 4 wins could be in the knockouts.
Yeah,
Crazy,
it's a fantastic competition. I mean, you only need to be very, very shit not to qualify. So that it just rewards mediocrity. I mean, that's everything Super Rugby is built on, right? Damn
Disclaimer:
Australians.
Victor Matfield won it when it wasn't the setup. I just want to throw that out there.
But now all these teams are counting these as like, well, no one else has won Super Rugby Pacific besides the Crusaders. But like, so like the Blues say now if they win, they got like 5 Super Rugby titles. I mean, surely the Super Rugby Pacific titles should not count with the ones that involve South Africans because it's a whole different competition basically.
Exactly. Better believe it.
I think the team that gets the most red cards in Super Rugby should get a home playoff. I think that should be the rule. I mean, that's the way that they're leaning towards.
It'll actually be closely contested, but there will be a clear winner.
It will be. Well, also, I mean, the Crusaders could go lose to Moana Pacifica this weekend and just ruin this whole. just get
Must have 5 red cards to qualify.
Yeah, 100%. The most number of weeks spent with suspensions gets a home semi-final.
So 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
We've got to make friends. We've got to make friends. There's a Lions tour and a World Cup coming up in that part of the world. We've got to make friends.
All I'm saying is, if you're
apparently we've also arranged a tour with New Zealand, and we've just asked Australia and Argentina to twiddle their thumbs for 2 months.
Yeah. So that is not confirmed yet, but it's a 3-match test series, rotating in between a World Cup. But when is it alternating around the Lions tour?
No, and then so the year after the Lions.
Yeah, so they're touring here first, 3-match test series with 3 or 4 games against domestic competition. So old school tours again. We've been calling for this for yonks. So it has to happen.
That is going to be amazing when the tickets cost 64,000 Rand to watch the boxing.
Don't get me started on that, Cooks. As a Cape Townian, I am very unhappy about the ticket prices for the upcoming All Blacks game.
For the record, those of you who don't follow Thala on Twitter, please do, because today's rant was incredible. And best when you replied, like, what do I get for this ticket over here? And you're like, someone will run out the stadium and come and give you the live score.
My favorite was show which Thala said for that amount of money, I should be able to give the team talk.
No, I'm sorry. If I'm paying 8,000 Rand for a box just for me, myself, no, I'm sorry. I'm coming to the coach's box as well. Tony Brown will be running one of my moves this weekend. Give me the talkie, money in the book.
They should actually, like, when the All Blacks arrive back in New Zealand, like, they should actually give you a haka as you get in the stadium, like a personal one.
In the changing room, so no one else can see when they weren't allowed to do it.
No, in your seat, as you sit down, like, and his wife, like they get their own personal haka, just like right there in front of you. Like, thanks, guys, appreciate it. Like, thanks, Sam.
Look at
Thank you.
this.
Listen,
Yeah,
I'll be
at
honest.
this point.
Imagine how many tickets you'd sell if you could do that. Like realistically. I mean,
How many hackers do you want the All Blacks to do? Jeez.
for the money, it doesn't matter. That's why we're there. We're there for a business so we can hopefully afford a Category Z ticket eventually.
Or
Yeah,
at least,
guys.
if the All Blacks win, you can choose the song that Scott Ray's going to dance to.
Sean, our friend of the pod, James Weil, who probably should actually come as a guest, he says Rugby Bus could maybe apply as a, for press, to be part of the members of the press for press accreditation for the test.
Absolutely.
Do you think we could actually do that?
Totally.
That is a great idea. Yes.
Are we the press?
I did that when I was running Judge Rugby. I did that when Saracens, the first time Saracens came down, it was in the new stadium. I went to the press practice and the press thing. We can totally go. Totally.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, this is our idea. So anyone that's listening to this, please, just disconnect your earphones from that part.
We can raffle the tickets off and then sit in another part of the stand.
I will give you one Category G ticket.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah, we must have a competition. Yeah, our biggest dirt tracker will get, that Category J when you're up there with Rassie doing the lights at the top of the stadium.
That's Category E. So on a serious note, I think we start this process now for the Lions tour and for the World Cup the next World Cup. Bit of travel, but by the time we've established first class tickets with our press pass, we're golden.
Hey.
That's the Rugby Bus goal now for the rest of the year. We need to get these press passes.
Yeah, get a World Cup under the belt and a Lions tour. I'm in.
There we go. Last question, Sean. Do you have any idea how this Madrid 7 is going to work this weekend? This championship, whatever's happening?
Nope. Haven't even bothered to look at the format. I mean, I know it's happening and what's going on. There's a Andy Dupont is playing. Tony, that's right. Tony Dupont is playing.
Hugo Keenan's playing.
I was going to say, what's his face? Hugo Keenan. They're guys prepping for the Olympics, and there's a prize at the end of it that doesn't influence the main tournament standings because that's been won already. So that is my uneducated roundup of what's happening this weekend.
Fantastic.
Also, with Hugo Keenan playing sevens and Venosa out, when is Doris announcing what he's doing for the summer? I mean, we're going like for like here in terms of if our players aren't available, their best players going to be available either. So that's our plan.
Do you want Doris to body slam someone in a ruck as well?
There's still a few games left for someone to get suspended.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can I have a moan? I just have a moan?
Why
on earth, Friday before the Sharks game, on the panel, the guys are moaning about the referee like, I hope this doesn't happen. The game hasn't even kicked off. Like, what? Why are they saying it so at the end of it, when it does happen, they'd be like, yeah, I told you, I warned you about this, some cuck like that. We don't want that. We want to know about like head-to-head battles and who's going to beat who where. Not, well, I hope the ref doesn't get involved in the game. He is going to get involved in the game. That's his freaking job.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, I don't want to say the stereotype, but yeah, it's kind of there for a reason as well.
Yeah, but you can't do that before kickoff. Like, if that happened at halftime because of a call, I totally understand it, but I'm not keen on that. Like, the truth is, as fans, we don't want to hear the ref made a bad decision. Cooks, can you write this down and you just send it to the big boys? I would like a contentious decision for the panel to say this is the correct decision because of X, Y, and Z. So when Eben Etzebeth, when he did that thing, that was the right decision because of that. Like, Suez does that actually sometimes. But to be fair, our guys are not great. Like, I want to hear about what's happening in the game and how it's going and unfolding and who's got weakness where and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to hear the Oaks moaning about the referee for 5 minutes in a call that was actually right. That's basically what happened on the UK side of things with the Eben stuff. But anyway, I really am done now.
And can TNT maybe not just have if they're gonna commentate on an English team, can they try not to be as biased?
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be. But
It just seemed like
maybe
they
that just
had
doesn't
no.
faze me.
Yeah,
But they're
maybe.
English.
Yeah,
They're
I
English.
mean,
Like, if we're honest
look,
with ourselves, if we were commentating, we'd hope the Sharks had won. Tyler, even you.
sure. No, of course. Maybe not me, but I get.
Matty Pierce, even he's excellent at it, but he's also the thing is, I do want the guys to have a personality about it.
Yeah,
Like they do
but
have to be able to say, like, I really hope they'd won, but not in
yeah,
such a
but
bad
it
way.
seemed like they weren't even aware that the Sharks were playing. Like the
This
first
is true.
40, 50 minutes until the Sharks like built an unassailable lead. They're like, oh yeah, I guess the Sharks are in this game. Congratulations to them for getting this lead. So
And they were
yeah,
properly in it at the end.
oh my goodness. So yeah, I think that's all the rants. Cooks, no rant from you this time. This is growth.
Who's 25? Who's 2024, 25? Who are you targeting then? Is it the
I don't know.
Sunwolves? Like,
Like I'm saving my rants because I'm sure the Wallabies will do something to piss me off in the next few weeks. So I'm enjoying the fact that they haven't gotten a chance to piss me off. So I'm not gonna end this part on a rant. I'm ending it in positive, in positive thoughts. Shame. I feel sorry. I'm sad for the Irish. I mean, that's why I don't want to rant because I mean they just been imagine being like a Doris and all those guys like their friends just watching your mates lose all the time in big games. They don't need me to pile on and rant about something like that. No, I'm in a good mood today. Rian's still doing his maths now. We're preparing for the weekend. He's got 5 calculators at home. So other guys have got other stresses. So I'll rant next week.
You know what? Fair enough. That's very honorable of you, Cooks. Okay, let us end off the podcast there. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for supporting the Rugby Bits podcast. Please follow us on our social media platforms. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever you call it these days. And make sure that you can follow us for any updates that are happening in rugby. And we have a test rugby season that's coming up. We have the knockouts in the URC and all the other domestic competitions coming up. So you will want to follow us on the podcast platforms as well, on Spotify, Apple, and other podcast platforms. And you can please give us a rating, please like, and please share this podcast with your other rugby mates. And we will definitely see you to recap the last round of the URC. Thank you.
bye.
Cheers, guys.